Transitioning to adulthood is a dynamic assessment designed to optimize independence and fulfillment in individuals with cognitive, physical, or behavioral challenges over their lifetimes. What is a dynamic assessment? You may not be familiar with the term dynamic assessment. Depending on who's using the term, the concept may vary. The American Speech, Language, and Hearing Association defines it as a method of assessment that seeks to identify the skills or strengths of a child and his or her learning potential rather than the child's deficits. Hayward and Liz describe it as a complement to standardized tests, comparing self to self rather than self to a normal child of the same age. It probes for learning styles and strengths rather than probing for deficits. Transitioning to adulthood is a descriptive and analytical tool to develop a well-rounded picture of the individual in a variety of settings over time. It focuses on the steps needed to maximize independence to improve quality of life and well-being over time. Why use a dynamic assessment? A dynamic assessment probes for the most efficient, effective, and economical strategies to meet the functional, educational, and independence goals for the individual. It focuses on solutions that are specific to the individual at a given time under given circumstances. It also can identify individual skills or interests that can be overlooked when using existing planning tools. Input from a variety of people who interact with the individual in different environments or under different circumstances provides a four-dimensional portrait and potential goals specific to each setting. Transitioning to adulthood adds to the basic structure of dynamic assessment in three ways. First, it assists in prioritizing goals set for the individual by parents, teachers, and other stakeholders. The goals are compared with the individual's own goals and aspirations. His or her interests should be paramount for independence, self-determination, and quality of life. The individual's goals, no matter how unreachable they may appear initially, should be carefully considered instead of opting for easily measurable and achievable goals that may not increase the individual's quality of life or independence. Second, using the assessment develops positive collaboration and problem-solving skills in all the parties participating in the assessment process. These will be especially valuable for the family members who may be responsible for planning for long-term care. Third, it is designed to easily keep track of the progress over time, so goals can be reviewed or changed easily and quickly.
Barbara Hallahan developed this assessment to formalize the work she has done over the past 25 years, working primarily with families of individuals on the autism spectrum and those with Down syndrome. As a parent of an adult who was diagnosed with ASD in 1991, as well as a speech-language pathologist, Barbara found that the most successful outcomes were those where the parents focused on the strengths and individuality of their offspring and advocated for them to grow into their best and most independent selves. This resource was designed to empower the parents and siblings, as well as the individual, to address quality of life as well as independence of all parties.
Family members are not expected to become therapists. They are helped to identify what their child needs and how to go about getting those needs met in a timely manner. This may mean going outside typical channels or taking courses to learn how to provide some backup or stopgap interventions. TTA helps parents evaluate entitlements and weigh which ones to request or fight for and which ones are not appropriate for their child's needs and should be refused. Using TTA builds a team with collaborative strengths. A transdisciplinary model creates a whole that is greater than the sum of the parts. TTA makes empowering the individual easier for all concerned. This may sound like there are too many cooks, but transitioning to adulthood actually unpicks the too many cooks situation. Often at an IEP, each person comes in with a plan that has been set in cement, and there is little chance for anyone to hear anyone else out. With TTA, each participant gets an opportunity to say their piece on paper, focused on the child through their own eyes. When the information is shared about how the child reacts in the different environments, everyone can provide input that is more productive. Developing transdisciplinary solutions creates more consistent and meaningful support. What does transdisciplinary mean? Transdisciplinary means sharing specific, specialized knowledge or techniques to be used in a limited way. Think of it as a combination of cross-training and information sharing. Examples of transdisciplinary activities. I was taught how to drive a car, but I could not build one. I taught my children how to sew on a button, but they couldn't make a pair of trousers. I teach parents how to help their children self-regulate in specific situations. A parent can share with the teacher the best strategy for calming a child, and vice versa. This assessment is a foundation of a process that will be repeated over one's lifetime. The initial assessment can occur at any time, from an early diagnosis to as late as the end of life. No matter how young one's child is when given the diagnosis, it's valuable to have an eye on the future with a positive rather than a despairing attitude. Professionals can often discourage parents from being too optimistic about their child's abilities. They want them to avoid false hope, but encouraging false despair is so much more debilitating for all concerned. The sooner the parents and the support people focus on the child instead of the label, the easier it is to see how to improve the way the child can interact with the world. Targeting skills that are important to the child will improve overall outcomes. Focusing on what the child needs when the child needs it will help create the most confident and independent learner. During the initial assessment, the parents and other participants refine their observation skills and develop communication skills that will improve their interactions in other meetings, such as IEPs. After the initial assessment, periodic full or partial assessments will occur over the lifetime. Referring to the previous assessments is beneficial before each IEP. A comprehensive TTA should be completed at least a year before each move from one school setting to another, or between school and adult placements. When a substantial change occurs in the family, a divorce, bereavement, or moving home, another look at the individual's needs and how to prepare for the transition is very helpful. Unfortunately, ordering something online will not magically make all the pieces fall together and make the assessment process a success. Each of us has a personal set of skills, perspective, and understanding of how things should be. None of us are mind readers, but we often assume others are on the same wavelength as we are, and we skip lots of steps to get to where we think we should be going. Transitioning to adulthood is a means to slow down the process the first time through so that no important steps are glossed over. The person taking on the role of facilitator must brush up on several skills, the most important one being listening. The facilitator also needs to be able to adjust the vocabulary used in the forms to make the information requested on the form understandable and to create a safe and confidential environment in which to share this information anonymously. The facilitator also must make sure that the participants have the time to reflect and to share information in the most useful and honest way. During the initial meeting, the facilitator explains that these record forms will be used to paint a four-dimensional picture of the individual in all environments throughout a current typical day or week. This may require more than one or two meetings, since it may not be appropriate at the start to conduct the meeting with both family members and educators. The facilitator will review each section of the forms: physical status, communication skills, emotional makeup, vocational and career aspirations, and social needs. The participants are given the opportunity to ask questions about the items in the form at this time. They are asked to give each item some thought and to only answer the ones they feel confident answering. "I never really thought about it" is a more valuable answer than a guess. No discussion of specifics is allowed at this time. Each individual's personal opinion should be put down on paper without it being influenced by discussion. Once each section is covered, the participants take home their own forms and complete them over the week, and then return them to the facilitator. The facilitator collates all the information and creates graphs of the data to identify areas of interest and potential. This process will tease out areas where participants' perceptions of the individual's abilities, interests, and aspirations can vary widely due to a variety of causes. Often we project our own feelings on others. Parents sometimes do not realize they're doing more for their children than they believe they are. This causes them to assume the child has mastered skills that they have not had the need or desire to practice. Teachers may assume a child is unable to play a sport well because he's clumsy moving around the classroom. This information is presented to the group at the next meeting with as little prompting or offering of solutions as possible. The information and opinions remain anonymous, and the focus remains on how to analyze the data in order to make a plan that will best serve the individual. The facilitator is there to ask questions to make sense of what has been presented and to facilitate a productive discussion of priorities and solutions that can be done without outside assistance before looking outside of the gathered group for support to meet the needs of the individual. Providing a safe environment in which the family can identify their own skills and knowledge to empower the individual with special needs empowers them as well. When they become problem solvers and can identify where they need help, they are more able to focus on framing the need when presenting it to others. The requests become informed and specific instead of vague and general. For example, it's easier to get results when one can say, "He needs to be able to use his phone to call me if he needs a ride home between 3 and 7 on weekdays, but to call his sister for a lift any other time during the week, and his father on the weekends." Instead of saying, "Teach him how to use a phone correctly." This is a functional goal that can be practiced once or twice a day over several weeks or months until it's mastered. Choosing and constructing these functional goals will help to skip the step from therapy practice to generalization. An additional and important step in this section of the assessment is to set goals for the support people, the parents, siblings, carers, and educators. Just as the individual benefits from goals that are meaningful to him or her, so should the goals have meaning for the person who is expected to help achieve those goals. This means that the people should be allowed to be honest about what they are comfortable doing to help meet the goals. If the goals must be adjusted to assure that the other participants will support the reaching of the goal, then adjust away. Better to achieve a goal in a roundabout way than to design on paper the perfect goal and action plan that will go no further.
Reassessment over time. The initial assessment is a foundation for subsequent reviews of progress. Once the initial assessment is completed, further evaluations can be done with the same forms and procedure, either with the original facilitator or a new facilitator. In some circumstances, an outside party may not be necessary. This procedure works best when goals and expectations are periodically reviewed, especially where there are changes in circumstances such as a move, a divorce, or a sibling leaving home. An assessment concluding that nothing needs to change going forward is as valuable as one that sets new goals. The Transitioning to Adulthood package includes the manual, 3 client profile forms, and 15 record forms. Additional profile and record forms can be purchased as bundles of 1 client profile and 5 record forms. Contact nettle.words@proton.me for more information or to order Transitioning to Adulthood materials.